We're going to current Daf Masechta Shabbos Daf Kuf Lamed Hey. Begin in the bottom line of Kuf Lamed Dal Lamed Beis. We continue to explain the halacha of our Mishnah regarding doing Milah on Shabbos. Our shiur is co-sponsored by Kazakh and Yeches Kotor Anytime Daf Achayim. Appreciate everyone who's joining us today. Some ideas we're going to speak about today's Daf are when there's a doubtful requirement for a bris Milah, if they may be done on Shabbos. This year we have Machlekes B'Sham and B'Sil. When do we require drawing blood, what's called hatafas dam bris, in lieu of a normal bris milah? When we're not doing a normal bris milah, we're going to have to do hatafas dam bris, and as that applies to Shabbos. The requirements of giving a bris to the child of a shivcha, very complicated cheshbon of the sugya and Amud Beis. Sometimes we do that on the 8th day, and sometimes we do that immediately. Some important terms and concepts we can speak about is like we mentioned hatafas dam bris, which is when you're not doing an actual milah circumcision, there's possibly a requirement to draw some blood. The halacha of the androgynous, who is somebody with both male and female organs, which has a status as a suffix zach, a suffix nekeva, not sure if he's like a male or a female, and that applies to doing his milah on Shabbos. The concept of nitna Torah and ischad halacha, that although there was something that was practiced, the same halacha before the Torah was given, when the Torah was given, then something changes its categorization. The concept of Yilid Bayis and Miknas Kesef. The halacha is that an Eved Kanani requires a bris milah. However, there's two concepts that are mentioned in the Torah, that of a Yilid Bayis, which is a slave born in the Jewish home, and there's a Miknas Kesef, a slave who is purchased. Both of them require milah, and both of them require sometimes right away, sometimes after 8 days, and that's going to be a little bit of the cheshbon of Machlekes and Amud Beis, what exactly, what it is and when it is. That actually relates to the Machlekes. Later on in the Daf of Kinya Peretz Kinya Gufta, which are classic machlekes, do we say that when you own the produce, the product of something, is that considered like you own the thing itself? Or do we say Kinya Peretz Lav Kinya Gufta? No, you own the product, but that doesn't mean you own the thing itself, and that's, as we'll see, as it relates to the ownership of the slave and the mother of the slave. So begin the current Daf. We said on the bottom line of the Mishnah had said. We know we said in the Mishnah we could do milah on Shabbos and everything related to milah. We said if it's a suffix, if it's someone that has a doubt regarding his status, or androgynous v'chulu is someone who has signs of female and male, the organs of a person. So then we said then it's forbidden to do that milah on Shabbos. Now, v'chulu etc. Because Rabbi Yehuda actually disagreed, and he says that androgynous is permitted to do his milah on Shabbos. So the Brisa elaborates on this machlekes and this halacha. It says in the Torah, our lasai, which is the pasuk in the Yikr, it says, "Vayimishmin on the 8th day, Yimol b'sar lasai, he circumcised the flesh of his foreskin." Now that pasuk uvayoyim hashmini on the 8th day, if you recall from a previous stop, we said from the word uvayoyim, which is unnecessary, you can say uvashmini. Uvayoyim tells you whatever day it's going to be, even if it's going to be the day on Shabbos, that's going to be done on the milah is going to be done on Shabbos. Now the end of that pasuk says the word or lasai, his foreskin, which sounds like his is always like an exclusionary terminology, his. And not a different one. So what are we coming to exclude when we're saying only his foreskin and not a different one? Says the Brisa, only a definite arla that's going to go ahead and override Shabbos such a milah as Gutin Tab of Kaflam and Ham and Aleph, but a suffix dechas Shabbos. But a situation of doubt will not allow you to do such a milah on Shabbos. That's what you see from the pasuk Ubayoim, which tells you could do it on Shabbos. That's deicha arla sai, only his arla, but not a doubtful arla. Now additionally, our lasai vadi deichas Shabbos. When we're excluding from our lasai, the Brisa is going to bring a few different similar categories that are suffix that are not deicha Shabbos. Our lasai vadi deichas Shabbos, the definite arla is deicha Shabbos. Belay androgynous deichas Shabbos, but androgynous, which is also a suffix because we don't know is he a zachar or is he in the keva, that's also not going to be deichas Shabbos. Now, Rabbi Yehuda, the Brisa jumps in with Rabbi Yehuda's opinion over here, which later on the Gemara is going to explain his opinion. He disagrees, as we said in the Mishnah. Androgynous deichas Shabbos, no, androgynous, which again has male and female organs, is deichas Shabbos, and we're going to see why would that be. V'anish karas, and actually if he doesn't do the milah, he gets a punishment of karas. It's like a regular milah according to Rabbi Yehuda. Now the Brisa continues. Our lasai vadi deichas Shabbos, again, a definite arla is deichas Shabbos. But if a baby's born by twilight, it's also a doubt. Because depending if the baby's born Friday night or Matzah Shabbos, either one, you're not sure it's a day 8. Only day 8 is Deicha Shabbos, not day 7 or not day 9. So therefore, since it's a doubt if this is the time, that's also not going to be Deicha Shabbos. And also, Arlos Avad Deicha Shabbos, a definite Arlos Deicha Shabbos, Shabbos. And also, if he's born already circumcised, that's also not Deicha Shabbos, because as the Gemara is going to explain, if a child's born already circumcised, meaning he doesn't have the foreskin, we have a doubt, maybe it's what's called Arla Kavusha. Arla Kavusha is a submerged type of a foreskin that's attached to the skin, and also we're not sure, is he circumcised, is he not circumcised? So therefore, that's also going to be considered something that you cannot be moihel on Shabbos, which the Gemara is later on going to ask. So when you said the first case of suffix not being Deichas Shabbos, what's that case of suffix if you already said all these different doubts of androgynous, or nil ben hashmashais, or nil kushumayel? But be that as it may, we're excluding from the word arla, so it has to be definite arla, but not a doubtful case of arla. Now, to explain this last case that we said we're excluding, that when he's born, when he's mohel, should Beishamim, because Beishamim say, tzarech lahativ min adam bris. Beishamim say that you have to go ahead and draw some blood from the child that's born circumcised, because as we said, we're concerned that maybe there really is a foreskin. It's just pulled down. And even so, that's what we're coming to tell you. Even if you're saying that you have to do Hatavas Dam Bris, you have to draw some blood from the child that's born circumcised, but Beishamim would agree that Shabbos would not be overridden for that. It's because since it's a suffix, you don't do a suffix meal on Shabbos, you only do a definite meal on Shabbos. Now, B'Silam, they say no, in a tzarech, you actually don't have to do Hatavas Dam Bris, and therefore, according to B'Sil, that case doesn't even start. But that's according to Tam Kama. But Amr Shemalazi actually disagrees, and actually, according to Shemalazi, they would be applicable even according to the halacha, like B'Sil. Because he says, no, they don't disagree on no Shemal. If a child's born already circumcised, should tzarech latim in dam bris. You do have to draw some blood of the covenant. And they arla kavushi. It's a pull down arla. It's just not in the regular place covering the gid, but there is an arla there. You have to draw some blood. And therefore, again, that would be the chiddush of this halacha that we're telling you that even according to Beisil, that you have to do it. You're not allowed to do that on Shabbos because it is a suffix arla. Aman Nechelko says, so what are they disagreeing about? A different case, not regarding a child born circumcised. Al Gershin is Garik Shumal. We're talking about a convert who's converting when he's already circumcised. So there's no suffix arla over here, like an Arab. The Arabs go and they circumcise themselves. Regarding such a case, that's when they're machlikas. You have to go ahead and draw some blood. Because when you're coming to become a ger, you have to do bris and tefillah. And although he's circumcised, but to become a Jew, he has to do a special circumcision. But still, the Basil says, no, you don't have to go ahead and draw some blood. So again, that was just brought in to explain, do they disagree regarding the child that's born mole or not? But either way, we were saying that as one of the three cases that we said that regarding a suffix, whether born ben hashmashis or whether he's born mahol or if he's androgynous, although it's a suffix, the halach is going to be that although maybe you're going to do it to atavat tambris, you're going to do mila, you're not going to do that on Shabbos because it says arla sevadim rachmana, but not arla of suffix. Now, Amar Ma, the Gemara goes back just to explain. We said the first case we said v'loy suffix deichas Shabbos. We said, however, a doubtful situation is not going to be deichas Shabbos. So the Gemara, so you might want to come to include. You already said many doubts. You said nila ben hashmashis doubt. You said androgynous doubt. You said the one that born mold doubt. So it says the Gemara, it's coming to include the following case that was learned in the Brisa. The Brisa says, Ben Shiva, if a child is born, again, in Talmudic times, if a child that was born in 7-month term was considered a healthy child. A 9-month, this full term was also considered healthy. A child that was born in the 8th month was considered like a dead child. It didn't have any viability. So that's what Brisa coming to say. Ben Shiva, if the child born after 7 months, so he's a regular child, you desecrate the Shabbos for the milah of such a child. But a ben ches, if he's born in the 8th month, you don't desecrate the Shabbos because he's like a dead child, and therefore his circumcision is not a mitzvah. Now, but if you're going to ask, wait a second, it's not doing any chilul Shabbos at all because it's just like cutting flesh of a dead person. It's not even doing a chabura. The Gemara later on is going to explain that actually this chil is talking about machshir and milah according to Rabbi Eliezer. In general, he holds you could usually do machshir and milah. He was saying you're not going to be able to do machshir and milah because the actual milah wouldn't be a problem. So okay, he's dead, so it's just cutting meat. What are you doing? There's no malacha. Malacha is only because you're doing chabur. You're not considered doing chabur on a dead child. So that's what the Gemara is going to explain. But be that as it may, says the Brisa, a 7th-month child, yes. 8th-month child, no, you cannot do the milah. Now this is the case that we're bringing the Brisa for. Safik ben Zayin, Safik ben Chaz. Let's say we're not sure. Is he a 7-month baby? Is he an 8th-month baby? Oh, Shabbos, that's the case that it's a Safik milah. That's the case that we're saying you're not going to mechal the Shabbos for such a child. Now, Ben Shloimy, like we mentioned, the 8th-month child, Harei Kevin is like a rock. But not even move him, because again, he's like a dead child. But the mother could bend over and nurse him, because it's dangerous for her to have too much milk build up in her breast. and it's going to bring her to become sick, which Taisus says, I don't know why you have to say it's going to be dangerous, even Mamakum Tsar, but be that as it may, since it's overwhelming for her, then she's allowed to go ahead and nurse the child because of the situation, but the child itself is actually, in Talmudic times, was considered, Taisus says, our days, not like that, but they considered the child like a dead child, and therefore they didn't do anything for that child. Now, regarding this machlekes, that we mentioned the Brisa, about what is the case that Bisham and Yisrael disagree about. Is it regarding a child that's born circumcised and you have to do Hatavas Dam Bris? Or is it regarding, no, everyone agrees that you have to do Hatavas Dam Bris when the child's born circumcised. The machlekes was regarding the case of when an Arab, let's say, is coming to convert and is already circumcised, do you have to do Hatavas Dam Bris? It must have been learned. It's machlekes amiram, how do we rule? Rav says, Allah Tanakama. Allah is like the Tanakama, according to this hill, who says you don't have to do Hatavas Dam Bris when he's born mole. Okay, circumcised? No Suda today, no Suda this Sunday, you know. That's it. He's good as it is. But Shmuel says no. Halacha Gibshim Elazar. That no, everyone agrees you have to do a Hatavas Dam Bris. Machlekes was regarding a ger. If a ger has to do that, Bisham says yes, and the Sil says not. But the Gemara actually brings a story relating to this halacha, to this machlekes. Rav Bar Ava Isyolid lehahu yinuk kshumal. Guess what? The baby already is circumcised. He was born like that. So Hadre Itlesim Allah. He went to 13 milim. Because he wanted them to do Hatavas Dam Bris. They didn't want to because the baby was born on Shabbos. The bris was on Shabbos. So even according to Bishamai, that says you're going to do Hatavas Dam Bris is only a suffix, but you're not Machal Shabbos for a situation of a suffix. So he went to all the Mo'elim and says, yeah, I have a beres. Oh, what? Yeah, the baby's mole, but I want to do Hatavas. No, they hung up the phone on them. You don't do that on Shabbos. Ad the Shabbi, until he himself did the Milah on Shabbos, and he made his baby, Kroi Shavcha, he mutilated the child's gid. Because he didn't know, he's not a real good male, he didn't know how to do it well, and he cut from his aver off, and he made him a krei shavcha. So Amei says, tasily, that it's coming to me, this punishment, the Abi Adarav, because I violated the pin of Rav. Rav said that the machlekes was like the Tanakama, that Beis Hill holds you don't have to do Hatavas Dam Bris, because I violated the pin of Rav, it's coming to me, it's me that I did it, and therefore that I got this punishment that, look, my son was mutilated. Now, however, Amalei Rav Nachman said to what? By the Shmuel Ayava? Like, you're only violating Rav and not Shmuel? Shmuel, when did Shmuel say that, yes, according to Beis Hill, you can do a Hatavas Dam Bris, that's B'chayil, that's on the weekday, because it's the suffix, you'll do it. The Shabbos Miyama, did he ever say on Shabbos you're going to do it? But it's a suffix. And even Beis Hill, who in that version is going to say you do it, not going to say you do it on Shabbos. But Shemar says, no, who suffered? V'ad held, V'ad Arla Kavushi. He held that, according to the version of Shimon ben Elazar that holds that you're going to do everyone agrees doing Hatavas Dam Bris, holds that because it's a definite submerged arla, and yes, you have the chiyuv to do it like a regular arla, and you would do it on Shabbos, and therefore we are mechalalinan, and therefore you're allowed to, and therefore he held no. Shmuel's version, he did not violate. Rav's version, he violated, because the Idma, like we learned, it's actually machlekes, this that you would do Hatavas Dam Bris on the arla, on the when this baby's born mole, is that a suffix or is that a definite? As the Gemara brings. Rabbi he says that this Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg says that according to everyone, you have to go ahead and do Hatavas Dam Bris. That's a doubt on the weekday. Because Chayshinan Shema Arla Kabushi, we're concerned that maybe it is a submerged Arla. But on Shabbos, for sure you're not going to be Mechal Shabbos. That is what he was telling, Rav Nachman was telling him, what do you mean? According to Shmuel, you violate. But Rabbi Yosef that's who Rav Ada held like, no, Vadai Arla Kfushi. It's a definite submerged Arla. And of course you would be Mechal Shabbos. And therefore he held the Shmuel's version, he didn't violate Shmuel's version, you would be Mechal Shabbos because of Vadai Arla Kfushi. And of course you would do it because it's a regular meal you have to do on Shabbos. Just you don't see the foreskin, so you do it on Hatavas Dam Bris. Which Amar Rabbi Yosef, he says, Menami, and he says, and where do I get this from? He wants to prove his point that it's a Vadai Arla Kfushi. Because they're talking like we're in a Brisa. Says, Rabbi Lazar Kappa, he says, says that this machlekes, the Tanakama says that no, they don't disagree regarding when he's born circumcised. This is like Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg's version. No, everyone agrees you have to have Hatavas Dam Bris. What was their dispute? Are you mechal the Shabbos? Which is the Shabbos. They say yes, mechal the Shabbos. You desecrate the Shabbos. You don't desecrate the Shabbos because it's a suffix. Now this is this Tana's version. This Rabbi Lazar Kappa's version of this machlekes. Now, says Rabbi Yosef, Lav Mechal, isn't the inference, the Tanakama, whoever is the Tanakama of Rabbi Lazar Kappa, because we're mentioning Rabbi Lazar Kappa, obviously there's the Chum who disagree with him, that some of the Tanakama holds that actually according to everyone, Mechal Nafas Shabbos, that you would desecrate the Shabbos, and I hold like him. I hold like the Tanakama who says that yes, you would be Mechal as HaShabbos. It's only this Tana that says that it's machlokes if you mechal Shabbos or not. But Tanna Kama hold, everyone hold you if you mechal Shabbos. Which the Gemara says, wait a second, how do you get this from? The Dilma, maybe Tanna Kama, Divrei HaKol, everyone holds in mechal Kama. Maybe Tanna Kama holds, everyone holds you not mechal Shabbos. Meaning, this Rabbi Elazar Kapper says that the Rabbi Shimon Elazar's version, that he holds that yes, everyone agrees that the child's born mole, you're going to do hatav dam bris. And actually, he brings the machlekes if you're going to do it on Shabbos or not. Shabbos says yes, Basil holds not. So wait a second, Rabbi said you can't be saying that you could do it on Shabbos because we were like Basil. Basil says not. Yeah, but that's Rabbi Elazar Kapper's version. But the Tanna Kama disagrees with that. What Tanna Kama says, he says no, everyone holds that you could do it on Shabbos. And nothing more says how do you know that? Maybe Tanna Kama holds that everyone holds you cannot do it on Shabbos, and Rabbi Elazar Kapper is saying that no, it's a machlekes if you could or you can't. To which the Gemara says no. In Cain, if that would be the case, that the previous Tana is holding, and there's a discussion regarding who we saying is the previous Tana, Taisus Rashi, but that everyone holds that you cannot be Mechal Shabbos. So then Rabbi Elazar Kapper is coming to disagree, and he's coming to say that no, it's not according to everyone, because according to Bishami, you could be Mechal Shabbos. So what's the chiddush that he's coming to say? That Bishami disagree? Tami the Bishami Flashmin, Rabbi Elazar Kapper is coming to tell us the opinion of Bishami. We know that Bishami has no significance in the opinion of Basil. And why would you tell me that it's a machlekes to tell me Bishamai, but Bishamai is not significant? So therefore, says the Gemara, Dilma Hachikama. No, maybe this is what Rabbi Elazar is telling the Tanna Kama, that you're saying that on Shabbos, according to everyone, you're not mechalas Shabbos, and that the machlekes is during the weekday that according to Beis Hill, you don't have to do hatav dam briz. And that he tells them that no, it's not the case. No, they don't disagree in this. Rather, you do need to do hatav dam briz. And the machlekes is regarding Shabbos. That is that according to Bisham, you can mechal, but he's coming to tell us the reasoning of Beis Hill. The Beis Hill holds that on the weekday you have to come to exclude from the Tanna Kama. That says according to Beis Hill you don't have to. So again, there's no raya from here to Rabbi Yosef's opinion that it's a vadai orlo, which because he wants to prove from the Tanna Kama that's not mentioned over here, Rabbi Elazar Kapper, that when they agree that you mechal Shabbos, and then he says that no, maybe it's not true. Maybe everyone will hold that not mechal Shabbos. And that Rabbi Elazar Kapper is coming to say that yes, it is a machlekes mechal Shabbos, but it's not going to tell us the opinion of Bisham. It's going to tell us the opinion of Beis Hill that holds that you are going to do it, but you're just going to do it during the weekday. Continue the Gemara. The Gemara begins a new discussion regarding the halacha of Milo being done on the 8th day. Amar Basi says, "Kol she'imei tmei leida." If the mother has a tumah of leida of childbirth, nima l'shleina, then he gets circumcised on the 8th day. Meaning, generally, a woman has a tumah of leida, or she has a childbirth tumah when then the child has a meal on the 8th day. But b'chol she'in imer tmei leida, if the mother does not have a childbirth tumah, when is that? When would a woman not have a tumah leida? If, let's say the child's born what's called yetzer daifen through the abdominal wall, which causes a Caesarean section, which is that the mother does not have a tumah leida. It's only when it's a vaginal birth. Or let's say a non-Jewish woman who gives birth and then she goes and she converts, so the mother didn't have a tumas leida. Then the baby is in nimol lishmoina. Then the child's not going to be born, not going to be circumcised on the 8th day. I mean, you don't have to wait till the 8th day. You do the circumcision right away, day 1 when the baby's born. Shemak says in Pasuk Yikra. It says Ishiki says the older zacha, a woman's going to emit seed, and then she's going to give birth to a boy. V'tamei b'goyim. It says that she's going to be tamei, etc. What? Right, but that's what we talk about. That's what we talk about regarding an Evid. Or even if, let's say, he converts. They do conversion with the baby. Yeah. So then the Tmei B'Gaman is going to be Tamei, etc. And the 8th day is going to circumcise the skin of the flesh of its foreskin. So you see, look at the pasuk. It says the Tumah of the Leda, and then it says the circumcision on day 8, which is Tali Zebazeh. If she has Tumas Leda, then the birth is going to be on day 8. But if there's no Tumas Leda, you'll do it right away. So that Abai says, wait a second, the earlier generations will disprove this idea. From Avram Avinu, when Bris Milah started till the Torah was given, they had Milah, but they didn't have laws of Tumah. Tumah was only introduced. It's actually, the Gemara elsewhere says that the whole law of Tumah is Halacha Meshmesina. It doesn't make sense a lot about Halachas. So they didn't have Tumah then. So She'ini Mitzmei Leida, all the mothers of Jewish babies until the time of Mount Torah, the mothers didn't have Tumas. Like, you have a Nimel Shemaina, but the bris was done on the 8th day. You see, it's not totally it's not dependent 8th day on Tumas Leida. And then Malay said to him, Nitna Torah, the Torah was given as a Kedem and Bezim in the Schad Halacha. And it was a renewal of the Halacha, which is, yes, once the Torah was given, then that context changed. Only if the mother has Tumas Leida, then the child's going to have a bris milah on the 8th day, but not a different one if the mother does not have, it's not going to be on the 8th day. Now the Gemara says, is that really so? But then remember, we learned as follows. Yetzer daifen. Like we said, if a child's born through the abdominal wall, which you tear open the stomach wall of the mother, or if a child has 2 arlos, either like Rashi says, it's actually one skin on top of the other, or some say it's actually two different male members. But be that as it may, these two cases is a machlekes Rav Huna, Rav Chibara. Chadam and Machal Nafsa Shabbos. One says you Machal Shabbos to do the milah of this baby. Chadam, one says in Machal and you're not Machal Shabbos. Now, we're not going to get into the actual this halacha itself, but the Gemara wants to say one thing. Ad kan lepligi. One thing is that we see that we don't have the machlekes el Machal Shabbos. There are whole machlekes regarding, let's say, the Yetzi Deifin, the one that's born by cesarean. The whole machlekes was Ayim Midei Shabbos or not. But you see clearly that on the 8th day is when you do the bris milah. Even though the child was born through cesarean and there's no tumas leida, so that refutes your interpretation that you said that the 8th day is only by tumas leida. Here we see clearly Yetzi Deifin is going to be 8th day. It's only was a machlekes regarding we do it on Shabbos or not. And then he says no. It's not true. One is dependent on the other. Chilul Shabbos is totally if you're doing the bris milah on day 8. Whoever circumcised on day 8 is Deicha Shabbos. Whoever's not circumcised on day 8 is not Deicha Shabbos. When it says Vayem Hashmini, which was from there we learn that that's done on Shabbos, that's by a child that's circumcised on day 8. So whoever was saying in this machlekes that the Machal Shabbos is the one that holds you do in day 8. The one saying you're not Machal Shabbos holds you don't do it in day 8. So it is totally Zebazeh. Now the Gemara actually says that this teaching of Rav Asi, who says that the milah on the 8th day is dependent on Tumas Leida, is Kitanoi. It's actually totally in the machlekes Tanoi. Now this is dependent on. There's two psukim. Just a short introduction that Rashi gives us. There's two psukim that talk about by a non-Jewish slave. A non-Jewish slave has halachas like a woman. And there's maidservant, the man, and there's an obligation of circumcising one slave. Now there's two types of categories that are mentioned in the Torah, what's called Yilid Bayis, which is that which is born in a Jewish home, and then there's Miknas Kesef, that which is a purchased slave. Now, there's one pasuk that says that the milah is by 8th day. There's another pasuk that doesn't say it's done on the 8th day. The pasuk in Bereshit Yud Zayin that says Himel Yimel Yilid Beischa or Mikdas Kaspacha. So I mentioned that pasuk both that's born in the Jewish home and bought by the Jewish slave owner, and it doesn't say that it's done on the 8th day of the circumcision. Now there's another pasuk over there in that same parak that says Uven Shmeinas Yomim, 8th day old baby Yimel Lachem Kol Zachel L'Derisechem should be circumcised for you, and that word Lachem is very important. For every male that you have for your future generations, Yilid Bayis and Mikdas Kesef, that which is born in the Jewish home or bought by the Jewish home. So there it does say 8 on the 8th day. So now Rashi explains the logic is that when it says that it's going to be on the 8th day, that's where the non-Jewish slave is going to be similar to a Jewish boy, which is born in the Jewish home when it was purchased, which is similar to Lechem that the pasuk says over there, Yimo Lechem Kol Zacha. When it tells you the 8th day, it says over there the verse of Lechem. Then it says Yilid Bayis and Mikdas Kesef. So therefore the Gemara explains as follows. Look at the Brisa. Kitanoi. The Brisa says first the Tanakama, and there's a machlekes in this, a little bit complicated, but it says like this: Yesh Yilid Bayis. There is a child that's born on the in the Jewish home, a Jewish slave, Shanim Echad, that's circumcised on day 1 of the birth. Now, Yesh Yilid Bayis. Now, there's also another slave that's born in the Jewish home, Shanim Lishmaina, who has the circumcision on day 8. Now, Yesh Miknas Kesef, there's a slave purchased Shanim Echad that's circumcised on day 1. The Yesh Miknas Kesef, there's a slave that's purchased Shanim Lishmaina that's circumcised on day 8. Okay, explains the Tanakama, these 4 categories. Yesh Miknas Kesef Shanim Echad, there is a baby that's born by the Jew that's circumcised on day 1. The Yesh Miknas Kesef Shanim Lishmaina is the baby that's born by the Jewish slave owner that's circumcised on day 8. Kate said, how do you have these 2 cases? It says the Tanakama like this: Lokach Shefkumu Beres. If you purchase, so again, you're buying it, so that's why it's Miknas Kesef. You buy a pregnant maidservant, and then she gives birth, so Zeh Miknas Kesef. So that was a purchased slave because the whole baby was in the mother's womb already when you made the purchase. So you purchased this slave, it's a Miknas Kesef, Hanim Lishmeina, but it's still going to have the circumcision on day 8 because it's similar to Lachem, because he was born in the domain of the Jew. So it's very similar to a Jewish baby that's born by when the mother's already quasi-Jewish, because she has halacha as a Jewish woman on some level. So it is like lochem. So therefore, that's what we're going to say. That's the halacha with the Eved Kanani of Miknas Kesef is going to mean nimel l'shmein is going to be circumcised on day 8. Now let's say lokach shivcha uvla de'ima, but let's say you bought the maidservant with the baby with her, meaning the baby was already born. So though it didn't even pass yet 8 days from when the child was born, Zul Miknas Kesef Shnim Alecha. That's going to be the child that was purchased, that's going to be circumcised on day 1. Like the pasuk says, Himel Yimel, and that pasuk doesn't say on the 8th day, which is not similar to Lechem, because it wasn't really born by you. It's not like a regular Jewish child. That's going to be the halacha. If it's born after birth, that's going to be Nimel Echad. If it's born in his possession, it's going to be Nimel Lishmain. Continues the Tanakama. Now the Yesh Yilid Bayis Nimel Lishmain. Now there's a baby that was born in the Jewish home that's going to be circumcised on day 8. Kate said, how is that? Very simply, Lokach Shifcha, he bore a maidservant, V'nesabre etzloi v'yoda, and then she became pregnant by him, and then she gave birth. So that fetus was not Meknes Kesed. You didn't buy that fetus. That fetus was already born in your possession. So rather, Zel Yulid Bayis Hanima L'Shemaim, that's going to be considered a baby that was born in the Jewish home as a slave who's going to be circumcised on day 8, because that's very similar to Lechem. And later on, the Gemara is going to explain, wait, you missed one case according to Tanakama. What's the halacha? When are you going to have even a case, which is actually very difficult according to Tanakama to find, how do you have a Yulid Bayis that's going to be circumcised on day 1? When do you ever have that it's not considered already in the Jewish home? Yulid Bayis means born by the Jewish home. How would it not be similar to Lechem to be circumcised on day 1, not on day 8? That's the Tanakama. And we're going to come back to the end of the Tanakama. Rav Chama, he says, regarding the last 2 cases of Yulid Bayis, he says that Yoldo v'achikach etfila, he introduces an idea that's going to be integral for why we're bringing this brayso in the first place, which is to say that this halacha that we mentioned of Ravasi is machlekes tanoim, that's going to come in over here. Because Rav Chama says like this, he disagrees with the Tanakam. He says, Yoldo v'achikach etfila, if the mother gave birth and then she immersed, because to become a full-fledged non-Jewish slave, which has the status as owned by the Jew to have all the halachas of circumcising the slaves, she has to have tevilah. So if she gave birth and then she immersed in the mikveh, zel yulid bayis shanim le'echad. So he's introducing something interesting. It's going to be yulid bayis because she was owned already by the Jew when she gave birth, but she didn't have tevilah yet. So although it's a yulid bayis, but the circumcision is not going to be day 8, it's going to be a day 1, because, and this is what's like Ravasi, as long as she doesn't have tumas leida, she's not having tumas leida, she doesn't have the halacha as a Jewish woman yet, because she didn't have tevilah. So then you're not going to wait for day 8 for the baby. That's like Ravasi. It doesn't have the halacha of Mila B'Shmeina. Mila B'Shmeina is only when you have tumas leida. She didn't have tumas leida because she didn't have tevilah. So she's not going to have to wait for the baby for day 8. But let's say hit tevilah. Let's say they already immersed her to becoming Eved Kanani, and she has all the halachic status of a Shifchet Yisrael, which then she becomes obligated in all the mitzvahs that a Jewish woman is obligated in, and then the Achikach Yolda, and then subsequently she gives birth. Oh, so then she already has Tumas Leida. That's like Ravasi. That's where Zeh Yulid Bayis Anim L'Shmeina. That's going to be a baby that's born in the Jewish home that's going to have the circumcision on day 8. Fine. So that's the machlekes, and that's what we see that this Tana of Rav Chama is like Ravasi. But that's what the Gemara is saying. That's the machlekes Tana because the Tanakama disagrees. He doesn't differentiate, as we saw in the words of Tanakama, if she first had the tefillah and then she gave birth, or she gave birth and then she had the tefillah, which you see according to Tanakama, and even in his words he saw that he didn't introduce the tefillah idea. The avagav the enim etmeile, even if the mother does not have tumas leida, mima l'shmeina, the circumcision is going to be on day 8. That's not like Ravasi. So that's what we have machlekes Tanoim in this brayso that you see is the leida of day 8 totally in tumas leida or not. The Rav Ada holds yes, the Rav Chama holds yes, and the Tanakama holds not. Which so that's the machlekes in Ravas' opinion. Now the Gemara comes back and says, wait a second. Bishlam the Rav Chama, we understand according to Rav Chama, who he differentiates between if you have the tefillah first and then give birth, or give birth and then have the tefillah of the mother. So Mishkach is like you can find all the 4 categories that we had said. Remember we said it says Miknas Kesed and Yulid Bayis, and it says it those that are going to have day 1 the bris, and those who have day 8, which that's listed the 4 quadrants. You have Yulid Bayis Nimel Echad. You have a child that's born in the Jewish home that's going to have circumcision on day 1. Yulid Bayis Nimel Echad, you're going to have a child that's born in the Jewish home that's going to be circumcised on day 8. You have Miknas Kesed Nimel Echad, you're going to have that which is purchased by the Jew that's going to be circumcised on day 1. And Miknas Kesed Nimel Echad, you have the child purchased by the Jew that's going to be circumcised on day 8. How? So the Gemara explains. If the child is born and then you immerse the mother. So although Zeh Yulid Bayis, although he was already born in the Jewish home, because the mother was already brought before he was born, but that's going to be Shanim al-Achad, that we said that's going to be circumcised day 1, because the mother didn't have Tumas Leida yet. And we said that Rav Chama is like Ravasi, who holds that day 8 circumcision is totally in Tumas Leida. The mother didn't have that yet because she wasn't immersed. If she was immersed and then she gave birth, that's a child that's born in the Jewish home that's circumcised on day 8. Because again, both of them are that the child became pregnant by the Jewish home, which therefore is not a Miknas Kesed. He's Yulid Bayis, and here's going to be day 8 because the mother was already immersed. And the mother has Tumas Leida, the meal is going to be day 8. That's for regarding Yulid Bayis. Miknas kesef nima l'shmayna, a child purchased by the Jew, that the circumcision will be day 8, is kigun shalakach shivchu muberes. It's like when you buy a pregnant maidservant. So again, the fetus was already there when you bought it, so it's a miknas kesef. V'hetvila, then you immerse the mother, and then ma'achach yolda, and then she gave birth. So that she's going to have tumas later when the child is born. That's going to be like Ravasi, where the meal is going to be on day 8. And then you have miknas kesef nima l'achad. You have that which is purchased by the Jew, in which the child's going to be circumcised on day 1, that's kikun shalakach. V'zeh shivcha, where let's say one person buys the maidservant, v'zeh obra, and then the other owner buys the fetus, where since the one who's buying the fetus does not have any portion in the mother, that's not going to be similar to lachem, because lachem is usually when you have the mother and then the child's being born. Says Rashi, actually the Gemara could have also said that you could have differentiated miknas kesef between if the child is born and then the mother has tevilah, whether the mother has tevilah and then the child is born. And to say that miknas kesef is going to be circumcised in day 1 is, for example, if let's say you bought the maidservant pregnant and with the fetus, and then she gives birth, and then you do the tevilah. But that's how it is Rashi. But the Gemara is going to tell us a chiddush that even if she had a tevilah and then she gave birth, you can still have that it's going to be nimol la'echad if one's buying the mother and one's buying the fetus. Additionally, Rashi just addresses one more point. This that we're differentiating by miknas kesef that the meal is going to be on day 1. That the Gemara gives a different interpretation for Reb Chama than it is for the Tanna Kama. And the Gemara doesn't say, like the Tanna Kama, where you bought the shivcha with the child there, is because if that would be the case that the child was already born, so that's obviously a case of Yolda before the Tefillah. So then why would you have to say that the child's born before you bought it, even if you bought the child after, even if it was born after you bought it, the Kohen Reb Chama would still be Nima Le'echad, because the mother doesn't have Thomas Leda. Therefore we said this case where, no, one's just buying the mother, one's buying the child, so therefore that's the Chiddush that we're saying, that even so, the Miknas Kesef in that case is going to be Nima Le'echad. Fine, but this is all introducing the question that we're asking, but El Tanna Kama. So according to Reb Chama, we understand how you can have all the 4 cases. But according to Tanna Kama, as we explained all the other 3, we understand according to Tanna Kama how you can have that case. But telling me that a child's going to be born in the Jewish home, that is going to be circumcised day 1, how's that a possibility? That's most definitely like Lachem, because according to him it's not dependent on Thomas Leida. Meaning, for Reb Chama we explain what's going to be the difference. Of course it's Yilid Bais, because he's born by the Jewish, the mother, the maidservant, is owned by the Jew, so it's Yilid Bais. But we said, according to him, it's going to be dependent if he had the Tefillah or not. If the mother already immersed, she has Tumas Leida, that's going to be Nimala Shemaina. If she didn't, it's going to be Nimalacha. But according to Tanna, he doesn't care about that. As long as it's born in the Jewish person's house, it's considered that you're going to have the Milah Shemaina. So how are you ever going to have Yilid Bais, Nimal Le'echa? So Rabbi Yomi, he says that the case is going to be B'lekech Shepchulu Ubar. If you're purchasing a maidservant for the fetus, even if you're buying from a Jewish owner, that is going to have a Tumas Leida, because the mother already had tefillah. It's still not going to be comparable to Lachem. Why not? Because you don't have a portion in the mother. A regular baby that you have, a Shifcha Kananas, when it's born for you, how are you having an Evi born for you? The mother's obviously a Shifcha Kananas. That means that you own the Shifcha Kananas. If you don't own the Shifcha Kananas, you only bought the rights of the baby, and then the baby's being born. That cannot be considered as lachem, because it's not lachem. You don't even own the mother. That's going to be miknas kesef. That's going to be nima le'echad, even according to the Tanna Kama. But the Gemara says, wait a second. Hanich lamad da'ama kinyan peiros. That only works well according to the one who holds that the acquisition of the product of the produce is lav kinyan guf dami. It's not like you own the actual thing itself. Which is machlekes Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg and Baba Basar from the base, but many times in Shas. If you hold like that, so you're right. Although the product of the mother is to have the babies. But that's not like you own the mother. So that's safelt, so it's missing in lachem, because you don't really own the mother. And it's like very lam de shekasha, be my ass now. But it's like when you own the product, you own the actual body itself, because what's the product? What's the thing itself? It's for the product. So Michael, what are you going to say? You own the mother. What do you mean you own the mother? No, because the baby is the pre, that's like you own the mother. So it's back to lachem. So then you should be having the milah shmeina. Why have the milah on day 1? So Rashi says, so rather you have to say the cases when you buy the shivcha with the intention of not immersing her, where she's not even in the category. Tracy explains you're allowed to do such a thing. If your intention always was never to do that, there's no obligation of toiveling her to have a halacha, or the shivcha kananis to have a halacha like a Jewish woman. There's no application at all of the obligation of mitzvahs at all on such a woman, so therefore that's not going to be like lechem at all. And therefore, according to everyone, it makes sense how you can have all the 4 cases in according to Tanna Kama to have the case of miknas kesef that's going to be nimoy le'echad. But regarding Tumas Leida, the Tanna Kama is not concerned for it. It has no application. He doesn't care about that. It has to be that even by the case when the baby was born and then she taibled, he doesn't care about that. That would be nimoy l'shmayim. The only reason why we're here, it's not going to be Nimel Lishma, it's going to be only Nimel Echad, is simply because the mother is not going to be Lechem. Why not Lechem? Because even though it has Kinyan Peretz Kinyan Guf, but it's not Lechem because the mother is not like even a Shepcha Kananis in that application of the obligation of Mila, because she never did Tefillah. And as Tzai explained, you could do such a thing. Therefore, that's the case that we're discussing for the Tanakh. So as we spoke about in today's Daf, the Shabbos Daf, Kuf Lamed Hey, was we had in the Mishnah that said Tanakama holds that you can't do the meal on Shabbos of a suffix, and we had a machlekes regarding androgynous. Rabbi Yehuda says that you're allowed to do the meal of androgynous. Now we brought a brayso that elaborates on this and says in the Torah or lo say, and that's in the pasuk where it says uvayoyin. Rabbi Yomi tells you that even on Shabbos. So that's what we say but it says or lo say. Or lo say tells you this one and not another one. What does that come to say? Only then is it Deicha Shabbos from the Bayim. But we said not a suffix, not androgynous, not Noile Ben Hashmashes, and not Noile Kishmal, which those are all cases of suffix of Mila. And we said, what's the suffix coming to include? It's coming to include if he's a suffix ben Zayin or suffix ben Chas, we're not sure if he's a viable child or not. That suffix, is we're saying, is not going to be Deicha Shabbos to do his Mila. Androgynous is also, like we're saying, it's a suffix Zachar or Nekeva. Noile Ben Hashmash also suffix if it's, let's say, Shabbos or, let's say, Yom Echad, right? We're not sure when the Mila is supposed to be. Noile Kishmal is also suffix. We're not sure what's the suffix, if it's an Orla Kavusha. We don't know if you really have to do a Mila or not, which that's halacha that you have to do Hatavas Dam Bris, which the Gemara brought a machlekes Bishami Basil. If you have to do Hatavas Dam Bris, and that's how Rav ruled that yes, according to Basil, you don't have to do Hatavas Dam Bris, but those who said that no, everyone agrees that you do have to, machlekes is only regarding a Gershon this guy, and that's how Shmuel rules. And those who say that no, specifically even Shmuel, he's only saying that you would have to, according to everything according to Basil, it's only during the weekday, because that's a suffix of Arla Kavusha. But someone to say no, that even on Shabbos, because that's coming from a definite Arla Kavusha, and Rabbi Yosef, who says that opinion, tried to bring a raya, but it was rejected, and that's what Rav Ada had, when he was doing the Milah, he held like Shmuel, so although he said he violated the opinion of Rav, but he was going like Shmuel, which holds as a definite Arla Kavusha, and if you let him do a Tav Bris on Shabbos, but he felt he was punished because violating the opinion of Rav, making his son into a Korei Shafcha, because he did the Milah himself on Shabbos for his son who was born Mo. The Gemara brought from Basi that he said the halacha that whenever the mother has Thomas Leda, then the meal is going to be on day 8. Because it says in the pasuk, each it says B'Golda B'Timneya, and then the B'Gim Shmini Imo, which tells us that, but if it's not Thomas Leda, there's no meal on day 8. I could matan Torah. No, there it's different because there wasn't any Tumah, but then we said that Nitna Torah, B'Nischadsha, then it changed, and then it became Tali in the Tumah of Leda. We had a machlekes that was brought in regarding a Yetzi Deifen, where by Yetzi Deifen there's no Thomas Leda, because it's only when it's a vaginal birth, or if there's 2 Arlas, if you mechal the Shabbos. So wait a second, so you see clearly that you could have, but everyone agrees on day 8 you're going to do it, and that says the Gemara, no, that's also totally in that same machlekes. If the meal is going to be done on day 8, that's going to be the kliya of if you mechal Shabbos or not, and if it's not difficult. But the Gemara says, ultimately, it's a machlekes Tanoi. Now the introduction we said for that machlekes is, there's the obligation of circumcising one's Evet Kanani. Now there's 2 types that the Torah mentions. There's what's called Yelid Bayis, and there's also Miknas Kesed. Yelid Bayis is born by the Jew, and Miknas Kesed is bought by the Jew. Now, there's 2 psukim. One that says it has to be done on day 8, and the other one that doesn't say that, which it sounds like it has to be right away. So, in that category, there's a machlekes Tanakama and Rav Chama. Tanakama says if you purchased, and that's why we said that's Miknas Kesed, you see the line, if you purchase the Shifchel Mulberes, so if the baby is being purchased too, because the fetus is already developed, and then the child's born, so that's a Miknas Kesed that's Nima Lishmaina. But as we put over here, Rav Chama holds that no, you also have that element of tefillah, because only if you have tefillah is the mother going to Tumas Leida, and then the baby is going to be have the halacha of Nima Lishmaim. The second case was, let's say you purchase, so again it's a Miknas Kesed, the Shifcha, and the Vlad's already there already. So if the Vlad's already there, so it's not really like Lachem, it's not Lachem, so there's going to be Nima Le'echad, because Lachem is when it's from born like in the Jewish home, it's not really, you're buying the child. According to Rav Chama, actually, the Gemara says, it's Lakach Zeh Shifcha B'Zeh Ubar. So this one buys the shifcha and this one buys the uber. Even over there, the halach is going to be nima le'echad because there's no tuma of leda. It's lacking in the lechem, so it's going to be nima le'echad. But the third case is if you buy a shifcha and it's nisabe so that's the bias because it became pregnant in the Jewish home, and then you have the milah on day 8. The fourth case, so we said the Bryce had quoted Rav Cham, who said that if the woman gives birth and then there's tefillah, so that's although it's yilid bias because although it was in the Jewish home, but it's going to be nimal echad because there was no Tumas Leida. Let's say there was first the tefillah and then gave birth. Oh, so that's Yilid Bayis. That's Nima L'Shmeina. Tanakama does not differentiate. Where even if the mother does not have Tumas Leida, the meal is going to be on day 8. That's what he says. Not like Ravasi. That's what we said is the Machlekes Tanoim between the Tanakama and Rav Chama if it's totally in Tumas Leida or not. Now, but then the Gemara ultimately explains, what does the Tanakama do with the fourth case? How are you going to have Yilid Bayis as Nima L'Echad? Similarly, there's no such a case. So the Gemara says either two approaches. Either if you buy a shivcha for the Uber, that would only work well according to Madam Kinder Pays Lavki and Aguf Dami. So you don't own the mother. So therefore, again, it's felt in, you don't have Lachem. Or, even if you don't Kinder Pays Aguf Dami, it's when you buy the shivcha with the intention of not to immerse her. So you're never going to have Lachem. Therefore, that's where the halach is going to be, that the Yilid Bayis, although it's born by the Jewish person, it's going to be Nimal La'echad, the meal is going to be on day 1. Think it to any time for hosting us.